Welcome to Comic Book Corner. I'm Dan Delatorre. Thanks for joining us this evening. Um, Before we begin our show, a tribute to a gentleman who we lost this past week. He was a very underrated actor and entertainer, and I'll introduce him this way. He was known as a person who needs no introduction in the civilized world. Of course, I'm referring to the late great Carl Weathers. We lost him about a week or so ago. Carl Weathers was an incredible talent. He was so versatile. We loved him in. He was opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Predator movie, and he was the lovable coach, the golf coach in Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore. But of course, he'll best be remembered for Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies opposite Sylvester Stallone. He had great versatility. He was a gifted man, gifted actor, extremely handsome man, powerful man, and very, very talented regarding his athletic ability. And as a native from Oakland, California, I'm embarrassed to know this only just recently. He was an Oakland Raider for one season in 1970, but he was part of the John Madden Oakland Raider team. This man will be missed. Carl Weathers was 76 years old. We respectfully move on to our next segment, and the term influencers has been batted about in the comic community for the last couple of years. And when there's so much money that goes back and forth, people start to act a little bit differently. Accusations get made, and some of those are kind of unfair. But if you have a problem with influencers, let me introduce you to the largest influencer by far in the world, and it's this company right here, Blackstone. I had misreported in the last episodes that Blackstone had given $500 million in the form of a loan to CCG, the parent company to CGC company. Now, that's money they literally have in their back pocket. No, it's actually much worse. What the situation is that Blackstone has bought CGC. They own the company. They have now, with this influx of cash, they have the controlling interest of the entire company. Now, let me give you a quick background as to what Blackstone is. They are a hedge fund company. They are a private equities firm. They're one of the largest companies in the world. They have assets that have topped $1 trillion. These are people that are the big boys in Wall Street, people from Lehman Brothers and AIG, and it doesn't get more powerful than this. This company is so powerful, they have enough influence to affect an economy of an entire nation, including the United States. They have such leverage, power, and influence, which is why they're in business in the first place, and they want to continue to gain money and momentum and, again, leverage. What they do is they look for opportunities where they can find them, whether it's properties or companies that they think have a lot of, there's an opportunity to make a lot of money. And they saw this with our CGC we'd all loved for the last 20 years. So they bought this company thinking they can make money out of it. Now, the influencer aspect comes into this because the purchase was made in July of 2021. That's when the problem started to have happened with CGC. The first thing that they did, because they're the new owners of the company, they started changing things. They started changing the way that the company grades its comics. If you had you had things on the label, for example, tape on the cover or a missing page, they decided to change all that to streamline for whatever reason. And problems that were rare with the grading and so forth started to become more and more prominent as time went on. But the other things too we noticed just after this happened was this thing started to pop up like acetate gate. That was and we were suspecting in the comic community that if you have more money and influence, well, you get more favors from this company because they look at things differently. My point is that CGC has become, since they've been bought out, they're not the same company that they were before. They had built their company on a great idea to encapsulate a comic, professionally graded. And once they started to gain a favor in the market, they became the number one influencer and number one person or entity to go for regarding what is what in the comic community. They had gained trust. We had loved this company, and again, they built their company on quality and reliability. And now that this mega giant corporation has taken them over, they don't care about that anymore. They don't care about you anymore. All they care about is how much money they can get out of you. That's what Blackstone does for a living. This is how they gained $1 trillion plus, and they're still at it. And I just want you to be aware of who these people are and what their interests are. It's not the same company anymore. Yes, some of the same people are working there, but they've expanded their operations. But look what they did. Not just the acetate gate, and now we're seeing these the mistakes which are almost becoming commonplace. It's becoming a joke. These latest problems with these two lawsuits that they launched. Let's look at the first one. This husband and wife couple. I forget their name, the Navarros or whoever they are. What happened with CGC is they started hiring a bunch of people, and they used to have the element where they would be very, very strict regarding who they hired and have certain guidelines. Well, this apparently it's a married couple. They were hired. One was a grader, the other did something regarding shipping, I think. They were hired in 2022. They learned very quickly that you could steal comics, and then because the security may have been lapsed or whatever. These were not very smart people, by the way. They were caught because they were stupid. They started stealing comics from this company, either resubmitting it to CGC and selling it on their own comic website, their last name comics. I mean, these people are just stupid. But it tells me that they have reduced the standards of people that they hire. Their hiring practices have been reduced, because if they're hiring these sort of people, and this is the mindset that they have, and this guy was a grader, do you trust the comics that this guy was grading for the last year or so? I don't. And again, that's just one example. The other example is this Hoodrat. A group of a person or persons have found a way to open the slab up, take the comic out, slide it back in, send it to CGC. And as I reported at the last episode, they had to have done this in a very methodical way. You wouldn't do something like this right away. In other words, you wouldn't take a Action Comics #1 if they didn't do that and send it in and expect no one to see anything. They most likely, after they did the R&D, the research and development regarding how to open the slab carefully, how to close it carefully, and then they would probably submitted a very low-grade comic and waited to see if anyone had any red flags coming up, and it seemed to have worked just fine. They must have stepped it up to a mid-grade, and then finally the big grails that they were submitting. And once they got through that and they felt comfortable and safe enough that they could continue on this scheme, they kept going for who knows how long. Now, the lawsuit that has been filed, these sort of things take years. So we don't know how extensive the damage is, how many people were involved. And so it will take years and years to unfold. But the bottom line is, this all happened because if CGC, who had, again, built their company with a solid reputation and reliability, would never have done this. Now they're making excuses. It's almost embarrassing to see Matt Nelson come on interviews and sort of skate around very obvious questions regarding security, what they're going to do moving forward. And then, not to mention the 9.9 pre-slabs. I'd never heard of that before. So this company, again, is not the same company that we had loved for the first 20 years. After 2021, when they were bought out by this mega company, their goal, and because they have to answer to this company, Blackstone is an extremely powerful company that you don't want to mess with. Their goal is to make as much money as possible, as often as possible. And Blackstone has the reputation of, once they're done with you, they throw you off to the side like a dried out husk. That may happen to CGC, which is why I mentioned in the last episode, it's not impossible that CGC goes under and goes bankrupt. As impossible as that sounds, don't think it can't happen. Now, I'm not wishing this to happen, but I'm just giving you the hard reality, and as I see things that other people don't see. I mean, like Mickey from Swagglehouse here, when he brought out his, he did a piece on this, I think last year. That's an Incredible Hulk #2 from 1962. That was formerly a green label. It's missing the center page. It does affect the story, but because of the reclassification and restructuring of how they grade things, they were able to put a 0.5 blue label on that. Now, we are a society that looks at color. In other words, we are programmed to see, if you're driving down the street and you see a stop sign or a stoplight that's red, you stop, because we are aware that you're stopping for a reason. If you go beyond that without stopping, you could run into trouble by causing an accident. It's no different with these labels here. That blue label, we've been programmed for the last 20 years to be recognized as something that is safe, something that is complete, and something that is more desirable in the market. The purple labels, the restored labels, they have been sort of looked down upon as like there's something wrong with them. By the way, we'll talk about that in the next episode. And the green label was the worst. Something was wrong with it. Something's missing with it. And so this reclassification is completely wrong. And I warned you guys on this show, the Ian Hoodrat Network, about 2 years ago that CGC was making a horrible mistake. Now we know why. They are under pressure because of this mega company that is pushing them to make these bad decisions here. And it's not reliable. The reliability is gone, people. That's what you need to look at here. Now, will this change everything? I don't know. There's so many people that they don't want to look at the hard details. They just want their slabs. They want everything to continue. But I guess the question arises that I'm predicting, and I'm not wishing this, but it makes sense that these lawsuits and these problems with this company are going to continue. And how bad is it going to be? What will be the breaking point before people finally say, I'm done with these people. I can't trust them anymore. And if you're a comic dealer and you have, and there's so many out there, and you are relying on this company and this company alone, and now they have brought this upon the entire public, what are you going to do? What's your backup plan? And I've said CBCS is probably the most logical choice, although they have their own problems, and I'm a one-man cheering section for this company because I like Tony Trombata. We'll have him on, by the way, tomorrow night at on Ephraim's Passpoint channel. I just got some of these back here. I don't normally do this. I normally send the pictures to Ian. This is my Incredible Hulk number 5, and look at how pretty that is. And that's an EGS label, EGS slab. I love Tony Trombata. I don't care what people say about him. I'm happy as a customer, and that's one of the companies that I'm recommending that you consider. Yes, it's much lower in the market because of CGC still dominates this market, but everyone should start looking for a backup plan and a secondary slabbing company to consider moving forward, because this situation with CGC is not going to get any better. All right, let's move on to our picks of the week, and let's just have some fun here. And with Ian's show, the freezer picks that he has every week, he's profiling a nice selection of comics that have come down in price. I watch them every single week. It comes out Saturday morning, and you could pick any one of those because, again, the prices are way down. So if you have the means, this is a great time to get them. And I just want to show some of the ones I have here this week that you might want to consider. The first one is this. I think I've shown this before. This is Daredevil number 99. This is a really fun story. And one of the things I want to do moving forward is, it's one thing to look at the cover. And I think it's a mistake that we're just showing the cover of every comic, because once you buy the comic and you open it up, there's all these great artworks and splash pages like this one here. This was Hawkeye when he was battling Daredevil. There was a love interest with him and his former girlfriend, what was her name? Not the Black Cat. Why am I drawing a blank on here? Everyone knows who that is. But that's Steve Englehart storyline. But look how fun that is. This dovetails, by the way, with the Defender story. What happened was Hawkeye left the Avengers. He comes into this comic right here, deals with battles Daredevil for Natasha's, that's her name, for her love interest, and she rejects him. And then there's a fight with him and Daredevil, and it was a pretty fun story. And it spills over to Hulk 166, and that leads into Defender 7, where he becomes a Defender. Anyway, it was a fun story for the latter part of the Silver Age, but I think I'll be profiling some of these pages of note moving forward. Next, we have Captain America. The Silver Age Captain America as the 12 Centers are really, really underrated and really, really undervalued. This is Jack Kirby at his best here. This is the splash page to the right. That's Cap 104. Look, Jack Kirby, his artwork is beyond legendary, and to get some of these things that are these are Stanley stories, Jack Kirby artwork, guys, it doesn't get any better than this. Read every single word of these stories. Stanley was by far the best writer that Marvel ever had. These two will be legends forever. and you can get them for a very, very reasonable price. I'm still gathering up a number of these things, and you can find them really cheap and some really, really high grades, and then get them slabbed. Go to EGS. That's my recommendation. Next, we have. Was this in this? This is an advertisement for Silver Surfer 1, and I can't remember if that's in the same. I think that is in that same book there. But these are the kind of fun things that you get, once you start looking through these books here, which are, they're fun to see, and they're certainly things of note. Like, for example, I got a Fantastic Four number 18 just recently with an advertisement. I don't have it here, but there's an advertisement for Avengers #1. They're just cool things that you can reveal from a historical perspective, if you will, back in the Silver Age. Another book we have is this one here, and it's Fantastic Four Annual #3. This is the famous wedding issue. I got this for an incredibly reasonable price. This is probably, I don't know, a 3.5, perhaps, maybe a 4. It's not a beat up copy, but it's still fun. And look, you had virtually every hero and a few villains, I think, on the cover. That was a gigantic collage. They squeezed everything they possibly could on that cover. It was a great story, fun story, long story, by the way, for the day. And with these annuals, you get all these little fun things that they throw in. In this particular case, to the right is the splash page for Fantastic Four #11, which is the first appearance of the Impossible Man. A great character, God, for the early 1960s. I try to remember, I try to think about myself regarding how it must have been for those people, because that was an incredible, groundbreaking years to say the least, from 1961 to 1965. These people were just geniuses, all of them. It was a really, really interesting time for them to rebuild. I mean, they literally stumbled into success because anyone who knows any history of Marvel, it wasn't all a bed of roses when they started up. There was a lot of infighting, a lot of money losing because they were always late with their submissions and so forth. But in the end, they produced, these are just, again, it's hard to find the words for how magnificent this Marvel Silver Age was. They broke ground, and no one has ever come close ever since. Do we have any others? And what else do we have? No, that's it. Okay. Everyone, in the next episode, we're going to talk about something that was brought to my attention and something I thought about before, and that's restoration, because these comics are not getting any younger, and as time goes on, we need to preserve them, which is why the slabbing concept is a great idea in the first place. But let me end on this. This is a special day for me. I turned 60 today, and I mention that because, over my lifetime, I've had to deal with a lot of shaming regarding being a comic collector. People don't understand it. People don't like it. People are rejected by the nerdy aspect of it and so forth. And I've sort of been shamed into making bad decisions, including selling my Amazing Fantasy 15, a couple of Tales of Suspense 39s, all because I listened to the wrong people. My advice to you is this: just be who you are. If you love comics, if this brings happiness to you, I don't care if it's a $1 book or a book that you can afford that's 6 figures, which most of us can't. I can't afford it. Buy that book. If it makes you happy, if it brings happiness to your life, go ahead and do it. Happiness, there's a great value in happiness that you can't put a number on. And I've fell in love with this community. I fell in love with the comics. I have so many wonderful friends, including Ian himself, who's the one who puts this whole thing together. And Ian, I love you as a brother. It's hard to find the words regarding how happy it is that I'm on this channel and able to share all my information, my experience, and my life experience with all of you. Everyone, thanks for joining. For the Ian Hoodrat Network, I'm Dan De La Torre, and this is Comic Book Corner.